Very good. So we finished last week with the stakeholders analysis. To remember what to do with them, the Mendel's matrix. I don't know if you have to use it, I doubt, in planning. And then we finished here saying that there is another more precise way of doing it, but because of that, less used, which is to check three things instead of two. One is legitimacy, that is, what is the authority that one has. The second is urgency, which is the pressure or that people put on you. And then the third one is the power they have to decide or not decide. Sorry. This is the next one. And according to that, when you have three, then you have 7 possibilities. So when you have legitimacy, but only legitimacy, those are the stakeholders. Each stakeholder has a different legitimacy. The neighbors are not the same as the investors, are not the same as the CEO, they're not the same as the employees, but all of them have some. So demand, anybody can demand, any stakeholder can demand. And we have seen there are primary and secondary stakeholders as well. The demand could be. And then the power, you have people who don't use the power and people who use the power, people who have power, who not have power. So when you have authority and power, those are the most important because are the ones who are going to call the shots, the dominant stakeholders. Dependent stakeholders, they can have a demand, but if they don't have power, it's up to you to do it or not, depending on the authority that they have. Dangerous when they have power and they have urgency, but they have not legitimacy. The gangsters that offer you protection. And you know that if you don't pay the protection, they're going to mess up your crop or mess up your shop or scratch your car. So those are the dangerous stakeholders. And then definitive stakeholders are the ones who have the three things. They have power, they have legitimacy, and they have urgency. They need things regularly from you. So this is another way of putting it, the different things. But this analysis, I say, is just for you to know that it exists. And if you need it, when you become decision makers, then you go for it. So what is we have seen the difference between the agency theory that considers mainly, almost exclusively, the investors. Maximizing profit is their motto. They talk about profit all the time. Freeman is a stakeholder, and he says, okay, value, create value together that we cannot do alone. For him, the stakeholders are, all the stakeholders are important. Investors are important, no doubt, but employees are important, customers are important, regulators are important, neighbors are important, the community. And he says here something that I don't know if Milton Friedman would have agreed, that the two things are needed. I hope this sound is working.
In lots of places, we see this debate as between Milton Friedman, who's seen as the advocate of maximizing profits for shareholders, and stakeholder theorists, who are seen as thinking about take care of stakeholders. And so this
not working. What? The speaker. Correct. It could be Windows. This is a bit complicated. Yaka. Okay. Okay. Now I hope it will work.
in lots of places we see this debate.
What is going on? Okay, now we're in here.
In lots of places we see this debate as between Milton Friedman, who's seen as the advocate of maximizing profits for shareholders, and stakeholder theorists, who are seen as thinking about take care of stakeholders. And so this Friedman, sometimes it's me versus Freeman debate, gets posed in all the business ethics textbooks and classrooms, etc. I actually think if Milton Friedman were alive today, I think he'd be a stakeholder theorist. I think he would understand that the only way to create value for shareholders in today's world is to pay attention to customers, suppliers, employees, communities, and shareholders at the same time. What Friedman was against was the idea of social responsibility doesn't have anything to do with business. I'm against that too. I think stakeholder theory is a theory about business, but community and civil society is
absolutely needed. Okay. So Freeman insists that everybody has to be taken into account. If everybody is happy, then almost everybody is happy. He doesn't accept, then the things work well. Not only the investors. And that is going to be linked to corporate social responsibility. That is another topic that we are going to touch. And we have an example of a stakeholder business that was doing very, very well and eventually was taken over by Amazon. They synergize, which is conscious capitalism. So conscious means ethical. Okay? So to take care of your conscience, but ethical doesn't sell in America. So this man started the Whole Foods. So Whole Foods was an entrepreneur. He and his girlfriend started just a supermarket for organic food. They were only selling organic. And people like it very much. And then at the age of 65, well, no, sorry, before, he was born in 1953, so he's 70 years old. Well, he's going to be 70 years old on August 15. So when he left campus, he had a socialistic idea, kind of communist, but then he realized that that would not work and would not help people. So he, in his company, these are the things that he says. Interdependence, which is everybody is related to the company, with another way of saying a stakeholder view. Then he put a salary cap. So the top employees or CEOs, etc., then will earn a maximum of 19 times more than the first comer, the last comer. So the lowest paid so the highest pay cannot be 19 times more than that. Then he will give shares to everybody. Everybody has the possibility of buying shares. And then everybody knows the salary of everybody. That's incredible. Then then he spent very little in marketing, and the return was incredible. Now, there was something that happened to them, which is the flood. So one day, the river, I don't remember which place was it, the river flooded, and then the supermarket was covered by water completely, to the point that the girl had to leave through the window on the second floor, swimming. So they lost everything. And they said, we are doomed. The only thing we have is death. But then when the flood receded, they were surprised because all the employees came to clean. Not only the employees, but the customers went to clean as well, and to salvage the little that they could salvage. The bank gave them a loan again without anything to back the loan. So they become again into the market, and then eventually they grew very, very big. Now, this is a bit long, but it's one of the best videos that we have on before you read the book, if you want to read the book, because the book is dry. It's not like the video. The video is quite lively. So he's going to start saying, okay, he's marketing his book, and then he's going to say why people hate business in America, business people in America. And he gives an explanation which is funny, but it may be real. The second thing that he says is the great things that capitalism, conscious capitalism, has done for the world. Well, capitalism in general. And then he finally speaks about the 4 principles of conscious capitalism according to him.
Conscious capitalism, liberating the heroic spirit of business, to boldly defend and reimagine capitalism while encouraging others to do business in a way that is grounded in ethical consciousness. Please join me in welcoming John Mackey.
Well, I'm going to talk about my book, because I'm actually on a book tour. That's why I'm here. So I'm going to talk about conscious capitalism, liberating the heroic spirit of business. I'll probably talk about 20, 25, 30 minutes maybe, and then the dean and I will have a conversation, and then I think it's going to be opening up for audience questions as well. So, why did we write this book? I think we wrote the book for a bunch of reasons. I think probably the primary reason is that businesses, capitalism and business have been the greatest value creators in the world, and I'm going to try to prove that to you in a minute. But the reputation of business is so terrible in our society today, and as a result, economic freedom is in decline, business is being heavily regulated, and America's prosperity is also declining as a result of this. At the same time, I really believe there's a better way to do business, and the essence of the book is about how business can be conducted in a more conscious way. So, in doing the research for the book, we learned so much. I mean, one of the great things about writing a book is you know some things that you want to communicate, but as you begin to write it, you learn so much more. And so your own worldview expands. It's hard to write a book, but it's deeply rewarding to do so. And some of the things we discovered, we talked about statistically in the first chapter of the book, is really the amazing things capitalism has done that most people are just not aware of. I mean, consider the fact that business's reputation right now in America has really never been lower. The Gallup poll shows that the reputation of big business has a 19% approval rating in the United States. I mean, 81% of Americans do not approve of big business. And Congress's approval rating is 17%. So these are very close together. But in fact, business has been amazing. Capitalism really wasn't invented. We had business for a long time, but capitalism was kind of invented really just a little over 200 years ago. We've got it Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations back in 1776. He's oftentimes credited as kind of the father of modern capitalism. And then you had the Industrial Revolution really get cranked up around the beginning of the 19th century. And so it's really when capitalism sort of really took root. And the transformation that's happened to humanity since capitalism was created is simply astounding. I mean, consider some of the statistics that we uncovered when we did our research. 200 years ago, 85% of the people alive, 85% lived on less than $1 a day. And that's in today's dollars. That figure now has dropped down to 16%. In the last 30 years alone, literally hundreds of millions of people have begun to escape poverty in just China and India as they've embraced more economic freedom in their economies. 200 years ago, illiteracy rates on the planet Earth were over 90%. It was a sea of illiteracy, a sea of ignorance. Illiteracy rates today are about 14%. We will wipe out illiteracy on the planet Earth in the next 50 years, just like we'll probably wipe out poverty, at least abject poverty, if we continue to embrace the principles of economic freedom. How long did people live 200 years ago? What was the average lifespan? Here are lots of guesses. I will tell you it's about the same age as it had been the previous 40,000 years. There had been virtually no progress in extending human longevity for 40,000 years. In fact, arguably, longevity was higher 40,000 years ago than it was in the year 1800. And that was because they ate a healthier diet. So it was 30. That was the average lifespan 200 years ago. What is it today? It's 68 across the planet, 78 in the United States, about 82 in Japan, which is the longest lived nation. Capitalism has lifted humanity literally out of the dirt. We were living in the dirt, we were poor, we were ignorant, and we didn't live very long. And so business has always been around, but we hadn't had it organized in a capitalistic system. And that is what's made all the difference. If we embrace the principles of economic freedom, first in England, that's where it started, then it went to the United States, and then it began to spread into continental Europe. And for a long time, the critics have said, well, the reason the West became more prosperous was because they exploited the rest of the world. And but it won't be able to do that forever. And then we saw capitalism go to Asia. We saw it embraced by countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and now it's gone into places like Thailand and Indonesia. And these countries have lifted themselves up at a rapid pace. I remember just visiting Thailand back in 1990. I couldn't believe how poor it was. I was back in 2007, and I just couldn't recognize the place. It was astounding how much progress they had made in those 17 years since I visited it. Or, am I got my math on? Yeah, 17 years. Then from there, it's now, with the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, it's been embraced in Eastern Europe, and we begin to see Eastern Europe lift its prosperity up. Places in South America have embraced it, and as a result, they've become more prosperous. Wherever economic freedom has been embraced, wherever capitalism has been accepted as the economic system, prosperity is what follows. And yet, despite the tremendous success capitalism has produced, it has a terrible reputation. The intellectuals hate it. Of course, the intellectuals have always hated business. Throughout all time, they've been the class enemies of business. Business has been routinely persecuted by the elites and the intellectuals. Consider the fact how the minorities oftentimes did business because the elites, it was commerce was dirty, and so it was outsourced, you might say, to minorities like the Jews in the West and the Chinese in the East. And then they were routinely persecuted, driven out of countries, their wealth confiscated, and they'd have to start over again someplace else. So, why do the intellectuals hate capitalism so much? You know, I can't say for sure. I do think admittedly, anecdotally, you can't really know for certain. But, I remember when I was in college, and the smartest kids are the ones that became the professors, the ones that made the best grades in school. And a lot of the business people were the ones that were going to the fraternities, and they were making C's and B's and having party. They seemed to get a lot of the pretty girls, but they didn't actually they didn't seem that smart. And now here they are. They end up being very successful and making a lot of money, and I just think that's somewhat resented. It offends sort of people's sense of cosmic justice that these people end up being wealthy when they were such screw-offs.
So what are the themes that capitalism brought in the last 100 years that he has mentioned? Do you remember? Longevity, long life, literacy, more people educated, practically everybody. Third one, freedom, economic freedom, and therefore less poverty. So that those are the four things that are absolutely clear. So if you check the economic history and the development of countries, is absolutely clear. Now, why do you think the rating of business is so low? Why people don't trust business? Especially big business. They're exploiting people. They're not. You cannot trust them. And then the second thing, the intellectuals are envious. Those who make a lot of money are the ones who drop out of school. Bill Gates, Steve Jobs, who is the one of Facebook. So he says, well, the intellectuals have a bit of envy, to put it clear. And they are resentful because they are not making money. Intellectuals don't make money. Very good. Let's continue, because now comes even more interesting. He's going to speak about women. Be careful.
So the business people are not liked. The reputation's not good. And generally the intellectuals, they go towards some type of government-controlled system, socialism, or I've learned not to use the word fascism, so I won't say fascism. I don't use that in Scrabble any longer even. But some type of government-controlled system. And of course, I find it's most interesting. In the United States, for example, now, we know for most of our history, we were so poor. If you study American history, we were a very poor nation 200 years ago, one of the poorest nations in the world. But we also embraced, more than any other country, the principles of economic freedom. And America lifted itself up. Yes, of course, it wasn't a perfect nation. We exploited the Native Americans. We know that they had slavery. I find the slavery question to be very interesting because it's actually a symbol of how far consciousness has evolved when you consider the fact that still 150 years ago, we still had 14 of the 29 states had legalized slavery. It's astounding when you think about it. That's not that long ago. We still had segregation, Jim Crow laws 50 years ago. So the United States, it embraced economic freedom with some notable exceptions, and it lifted itself up. And it would have ranked, if they'd done these kind of rankings, it would have ranked number one in economic freedom for most of its history. As recently as just 12 years ago, 13 years ago now, the year 2000, the United States still ranked number 3 in the Economic Freedom Index that measures economic freedom across different nations, behind Hong Kong and Singapore, which rank 1 and 2. In the last 12 years, the United States has plunged from number 3 to number 18. We now rank number 18. And if you really want to know why we have 7.9% unemployment, and why disposable personal income has actually declined in our nation over the past 10 years, you don't need to look any further than that statistic. Because as our economic freedom declines, so does our prosperity. They are directly connected together. And if we want to reverse that, we will find ways to increase economic freedom, empower entrepreneurs who are the job creators, and we will allow the United States to do what it's always done, attract tens of millions of immigrants who come over here in search of a better life, give them the freedom to enterprise, and we will, as a nation, benefit from that. So, capitalism has done these amazing things. It's helped lift humanity up. And so one of the reasons we wanted to write the book was we wanted people to understand that. And business is not love for lots of reasons. The narrative has been captured by the critics and the enemies of capitalism. Intellectuals basically paint the motivations of business to be the following. Business people are selfish, and they're greedy, and they're exploitative. They're fundamentally not good. Young people don't aspire to be business people. If you go to graduate school in business, you've sold out. You should be out there starting some kind of nonprofit organization or working for the government or doing art, anything but business, which is, again, that disdain towards commerce that we've often experienced throughout the ages. I don't know, anybody here see the documentary, The Corporation? A few people? Actually, don't recommend it, but it is interesting in the sense that corporations were portrayed in that documentary as fundamentally sociopaths. But they're just basically running amok in the world in the almighty pursuit of the bottom line. And that's the only thing that motivates them. And that is how people see business. And that's why it has a 19% approval rating. And that's why people don't like it, and they don't trust it, and they fear it, and they want government to control it. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we've done. So we've written this book because we want to recapture the narrative. We want to wake business people up. We want to change the story about business, and it starts with business people understanding why they exist, what their purpose is, and how they can consciously create more value in this world. So, the first principle of conscious capitalism, which we articulate in the book, is that business has...
So what are the two things that he has mentioned now that are interesting for our topic? Economic freedom. So more economic freedom, more development. America is going down because from being number 1 became number 3, and now it's number 18. I think even it's lower. Where does Kenya is? You can check in the internet, and then you will see where Kenya is in business. And then the other thing is the negative narrative that business has, especially big business, that they are greedy, that they are, and he cites one of the powerful movies that has made that kind of universal, which is The Corporation. I use The Corporation in some clips, if you remember. So now he's going to devote a lot of time to the first principle also of ethical conscious capitalism, and the second principle. The third and the fourth, he runs over it because he lacks time. He runs out of time.
Just capitalism, liberating the heroic.
I told a few can consciously create more value in this world. So, the first principle of conscious capitalism, which we articulate in the book, is that business has the potential, every business has the potential to have a higher purpose besides just making money. Not that there's anything wrong with making money. I mean, business can't exist if it doesn't make money. It will eventually fail. But just as my body produces red blood cells, if I stop producing red blood cells, I'm going to die. But the purpose of my life is not to produce red blood cells. I have personally a more transcendent purpose that gives my life meaning. Business has to make money or it can't survive. It doesn't have the resources to respond to competition. It can't grow. It can't innovate. It can't even repair its equipment when it breaks down. So the profit's essential to business, but just as my purpose isn't to produce red blood cells, business's purpose ultimately is not simply to make money. It has the potential for a much higher purpose. And that's where it has to start. And business has to recapture and rethink why it exists. Now, if you go ask people randomly what the purpose of business is, I promise you, do this experiment, most people will look at you quizzically. What do you mean? What's the purpose of business? The purpose of business is to make money. It is such an odd answer. Because if you ask what the purpose of a doctor is, they make money. They're some of the highest paid people in our society. But I get to talk to a doctor and say, hey doc, what's your purpose as a doctor? Making money, dude. No, doctors heal people, right? What do teachers do? Are they in it for... Is the people that are the professors at this university, are they primarily doing it to make as much money as possible? Well, I don't know, maybe a few are, but I suspect they are dedicated to education. Teachers educate. They care about their students. They want the students to learn. They find that satisfying. What's the purpose of architects? They design buildings. Engineers construct things. Journalists, theoretically, should be uncovering the truth. Which I've told a few journalists on my book tour from time to time. Every one of the professions ultimately has some type of purpose beyond simply its own self-interest. Lawyers are a tougher case. Mostly because the only jokes I seem to be able to remember are lawyer jokes. But, no, I mean, they teach in law school that lawyers, the question about purpose is an interesting one because not only does business have to wrestle with it, all the professions also have to wrestle with it now. And trust is being undermined in our society, not just in business. I could also talk about how politicians are not trusted, the media is not trusted, our educational system's in crisis, our healthcare system's in crisis. The only two areas in our society that still maintain a reasonably high level of trust in the American people, and they're declining, by the way. First is the military, but after a 10-year war in Afghanistan, the military's ratings are going down. And small business still holds a pretty good rating, but it's also in decline. Trust is being undermined systematically in our society. So definitely lawyers are not trusted. But they're taught in the law schools that they have codes of conduct that they have to adhere to be professional. And I think theoretically an attorney's job is to help promote justice in our society. We should live in a just and fair society, and the attorneys should be the ones that help us to realize that. And I think many people that go into law, many of them have that ideal when they begin their studies. So I think law does have that potential for higher purpose. So what is the higher purpose of business? Well, it can vary. Each business has the potential to discover its own higher purpose, and it can vary tremendously. And there's not a right higher purpose, but each business needs to discover it. And I will tell you that if some of you are business people, and if you're looking for your higher purpose, you can always start with ask what kind of value you're creating in the world. What are you doing for other people? Just as doctors are creating value for sick people and teachers are educating students. What is the value that your business is creating? If your business disappeared tomorrow, who would care? What difference are you making in the world? And those point towards what your higher purpose might be. We talk in the book about doing what we call purpose search, where you actually can go discover and work through your stakeholder group to discover what your higher purpose is. But business is the greatest value creator in the world. And this is where your purpose is anchored. Because business doesn't create value for just a few people. Business creates value for everyone that trades with it. And that trade, unless you're in some type of monopolistic system maintained by the government, is done through voluntary exchange. Think about it. Let's just take Whole Foods as an example. We create value for our customers. None of our customers have to trade with us. They do so because they believe it's in their best interest in terms of the quality of the products we sell and the service we provide and the store ambiance we create and the prices that we can charge for the services that we're providing, that people come away thinking this is a good deal, and that's why they shop at Whole Foods. And if they don't, they've got Trader Joe's down the street, or they've got Raley's, or they've got some other type of supermarket competitor that they can go to. We create value for our team members. That we provide jobs, we provide benefits, we provide opportunities for promotion, for growth, for learning. And as a result, our company has very low turnover for a retailer. We're under 10% turnover on an annual basis. We create value for our suppliers. Our company has over 100,000 suppliers. It's been an explosion of local small producers in the last decade, and we've added tens of thousands of new suppliers on. We create value for all the suppliers. They trade with us, and they create value for us. It's been a mutual win-win-win philosophy with our suppliers. We create value for our investors. Nobody has to buy stock in Whole Foods. They do so hoping to see the stock price increase, and our stock price has increased remarkably well since we did our IPO 21 years ago. We create value for the communities that we're in. We talk about social responsibility. The way we think about it in a conscious business is that the community is one of the stakeholders in the company, and so it's at the very core of why the business exists. We exist partially to create value for the communities that we're in. So social responsibility is woven into the fabric of the business. And business should be done in a way that it preserves our environment. We now have the environment as an important stakeholder in all our decisions. So business is a value creator for customers, for employees, for suppliers, for investors, and for the communities that we're part of. So it's not a trickle-down philosophy, a little bit trickles down. No, business is a value creator, and ultimately the nonprofit sector and the governmental sector are ultimately dependent upon the value creation that business creates. If the business sector declines, it's inevitable the rest of society will decline as well, because they stand on the backs of business. Business is the wealth creator. And as the economic freedom declines and the prosperity of business declines, count on it. The rest of the prosperity of society will decline as well. There are no exceptions to that. The historical record is clear. The second principle of conscious capitalism beyond finding your higher purpose is what we call stakeholder interdependence. All of the stakeholders matter. The conscious business sees that they are interdependent on one another, that there's a larger business system, and that you should consciously create value for all of those stakeholders. And I use a simple example to explain it. Our job, when we hire people at Whole Foods, we try to hire the very best people we can find. We make sure they're well trained. And then the job of management at that point is to make sure those team members are happy in their jobs, that they flourish. Because we found when our team members are happy, they take care of the customers, and they make the customers happy. When customers are happy, they tend to be loyal to the business, they're repeat customers, and they tell their friends about the business, they market it, and the business flourishes. And that results in happy investors. So, happy team members results in happy customers, results in happy investors. When you see that your suppliers are part of your network as well, and that they need to flourish because they create competitive advantage for you by their unique products, you begin to see that business actually lines up as kind of this web of relationships, a web of interdependence. And the conscious business begins to see that web and begins to manage the business in such a way that all of these interdependent stakeholders can simultaneously flourish. You look for strategies where you're not looking for trade-offs, you're looking for strategies that allow everyone to win at the same time, simultaneous prosperity. When I find trade-offs at Whole Foods, for example, in the strategy, I don't like that strategy, I want to get rid of it. I want to look for the strategies where no one ever loses. If the strategy is out there where the team members are losing something, I don't like it. We need to change it. We need to find a better strategy. Once you give your mind permission to go in this direction, you'll begin to discover things that you didn't realize were even possible before. Now, the third principle of the conscious capitalism is what we call conscious leadership. You cannot create a conscious business unless the leadership is also conscious. It's that simple, because they will sabotage the business to the degree that they themselves are not conscious. I know this from personal experience because I held Whole Foods back so many times in our evolution. It wasn't until I woke up that I could let the company move forward. And I've seen it happen again and again and again. As the leader, as I became more awake and more conscious, it allowed the company to collectively become more awake and more conscious. So we need a different kind of leader today. Most of the leaders in the past were attracted to leadership because they were into power. They like to have power over other people. We see this with a lot of politicians, for example. And or people are attracted to it because they want the money. If you're on top, you get to dump more money into your pockets. So people have been attracted to leadership for power or money. In the 21st century, in the conscious businesses, we need a different kind of leader. We need leaders who are primarily have a higher degree of emotional intelligence, a higher degree of spiritual intelligence, and who are primarily servant leaders, who serve the higher purpose of the enterprise, who serve the stakeholders, who are attracted to leadership not from power, not from money, but simply to see the enterprise flourish and the people within the enterprise flourish along with it so they can reach their highest potential. Now, some of the most interesting statistics I uncovered, Raj and I uncovered as we did the book, was the amazing transformation that's happening. First of all, let me just point out some of the ways our society is evolving from a historical context. I already gave you a couple of quotes. 150 years ago, slavery was still legal in 14 of the 29 states. 100 years ago, women didn't have the right to vote. 75 years ago, most of the planet was organized into colonial empires. 50 years ago, there was no environmental consciousness. 50 years ago, we still had Jim Crow laws of segregation in the South. 25 years ago, half the world was still basically ruled in communistic empires that people argued communism was a superior way to organize people than democracy or capitalism. So we've seen tremendous progress in our consciousness in just the last 150 years. It's utterly astounding if you study it and you think about it. I lost my train of thought. That's not good. Anyways, we've made great progress from an ethical standpoint. And, women. Yes. How could I forget? Sorry, I got in last night at like 1:30 in the morning from the East Coast. It was like 4:30, so I'm a little bit fried today. One of the most hopeful things that's happening is the fact that let me just cut to the chase. Women are taking over. This is simply the way it is, and we're going to see this continue to process out. And what's the evidence of that? Well, 60% of all college degrees now are being given to women. 70% of all the students in graduate school are women. Women are systematically taking over law, accounting, medicine, and education. Engineering and the military are still holdouts, but I have no doubt in the next 50 years they'll probably take those over as well. Why is this good? Well, I realize it's very risky to ever kind of make gender stereotypes, and I understand everyone's on a continuum. But as a guy who's been an executive for doing this for 35 years and who's been married, happily married for 21 years, I can tell you that on average, women have a higher degree of emotional intelligence than men. That is just the way it is, and guys, you ought to get used to it. Women have a higher degree of emotional intelligence. They communicate better. They are more aware of the web of relationships. And women are much more comfortable with love in the workplace. And the biggest thing that's been missing in corporate America and businesses in general is love has been in the closet. Love has not permeated our organizations. And it hasn't been because we've had a more macho culture with a bunch of war metaphors of let's kill the competition, let's roll, let's crush them, they're dead meat, kill or be killed, only the paranoid survive, survival of the fittest, you're dead, dude. I mean, those do not make for, so love has been seen as kind of a weakness. But what's happening is that if you're going to create empowered organizations that are innovative, love and care have got to permeate the organizations. If we're going to create fully human corporations, then care and love will be at the essence of what those businesses are about. And frankly, women are just more comfortable with it. And so as women create, 40% of all privately held businesses now are owned by women, and 70% of new entrepreneurial startups are being done by women. It's astounding. They're not yet. The corporate, the Fortune 500 does not have women. They're only like 5% of the CEOs in the Fortune 500 are women. But I have no doubt that that will change over time as well. So we need this new type of leader who's got a higher degree of emotional intelligence, who's more comfortable with care and love and relationships and communication in the workplace, because that's what creates the type of community that we need for organizations to be fully human. And as we transform our organizations, which is what our book is, of course, dedicated to doing, we will see the reputation of business completely turn around. We will go from a 19% approval rating to an 81% approval rating. And as that happens, we will let up on the massive loss of economic freedom that we're seeing because we don't trust businesses, because corporations are a bunch of sociopaths. We've got to control with the government, and as a result, our prosperity declines. Fourth tenet of conscious capitalism, and then I will be done up here for my talk, is we have to create cultures that liberate human beings to be creative, that are not managed by fear, that allow humans to self-actualize themselves and reach their highest potentials in life. So I've already talked about love. We have to create organizations that have trust, that have empowerment, that have authenticity, that have innovation and collaboration. These are some of the traits that in our research shows that the conscious businesses have an abundance. So I will have to tell you that I've sort of given up on my own generation. This is always disappointing when I tell people this. But I have found in a lot of the ways that we wrote the book, not for baby boomers in their 50s and 60s who are somewhat ideologically locked in and not really open now to new ideas. It's the millennial generation. The millennial generation is an amazing generation. I'm talking about the people born between about 1980 and the year 2000, because they have the potential to be an heroic generation. And so we've written this book in a way to give the millennials permission to create conscious businesses. No, you're not a fool for doing this. You're not a sucker. That in fact, you're creating businesses that will be more competitively resilient and more competitively successful. And it will be the millennials that will create the conscious businesses that are going to transform our world in the 21st century. There are a number of conscious businesses that are out there that we talk about, companies like Google, like Southwest Airlines, like Amazon.com, Costco, Bright Horizons, Panera Bread, the Container Store, UPS, POSCO in South Korea, the Tata Group in India. We name a bunch of them. And by the way, consciousness is on a continuum. We don't hold any of these companies up, including Whole Foods, as perfect. Perfection is humans were flawed, and businesses are never going to be perfect, and it's easy for people to take shots at businesses and point out the things that Whole Foods does wrong or they don't like about Amazon or Southwest, et cetera, et cetera. But you can do the same thing about doctors or lawyers or politicians or journalists or business school professors. It's just the way it is. So I'd like to end on that challenge to the millennial group, because that's really who we're targeting here. You will create the businesses that will transform our world. My generation solved some problems that my parents' generation couldn't solve, but we have left a pretty big mess. And sorry about that. I've done what I could. But that's what we count on the young. The young doesn't yet know what it can't do. It doesn't yet know what it can't do. And that allows it to innovate in ways that the people who think they already know are no longer able to see. So the challenge to the millennials that I'll give you is you can create the conscious businesses that can help heal a lot of the problems that are in America. In fact, it's your job to do so. Because honestly, my generation couldn't figure out how to do it. So we've left it to you. But we trust you. You're very smart. You're very creative. you have lots of skill sets, and your consciousness is much higher than my generation was at the same age. So maybe I'll leave it there, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Very good. Interesting. So what are the 4 principles of social capitalism for the millennials to start? Higher purpose. What means higher purpose? To make more money. To be number 1 in the world. So what is higher purpose? According to conscious capitalism. People at home can shout.
Can I make a small contribution?
Yes, coming.
I think he meant the higher purpose is the true value of why the business exists. But again, probably I could tie it up to the true value of the professionalism to which the business is existing. For example, he gave examples about doctors existing with the true purpose or the higher purpose of healing and not making money, or lawyers existing to create and make society live in a just environment or something like that. Yeah.
So it's a purpose of serving, it's a purpose of creating value. That is what he's saying. So the high purpose is not just to make money. You need to make money, good money, if you want to do good. And you want to keep the company going up. But that is the higher purpose. The higher purpose is what I am here for. And he says a test. You remember the test? If your company goes down, what people will miss? Electricity. Wow, that's important. So the higher purpose of companies that produce and distribute electricity is to help the people who have electricity at affordable price, safely, and constantly. So that is a very higher purpose because you are helping every single person. It's up to them to do good use or bad use of electricity. Some people do it for bad business, other people do it for good business production. But the highest purpose of a company producing energy is to make us as affordable, continuous, and safe as possible. So, and clean as possible. So that's higher purpose, to produce value, a higher value to the community. The second one was interdependence. So everybody is independent. The customers are interdependent with the producers, with the investors are interdependent with the company, and maybe with the clients as well, with the suppliers. So he says it's a network of relationships. So that's why we saw Freeman saying that ethics is about people, business is about people. So it's a relationship between people. And for that, people have to create trust. I may repeat the 5 things that he says of the culture, a conscious culture. And then the third one was conscious leadership. You have to have ethical leaders, otherwise they will work for themselves and not for the company, not for the value that the company should produce. And the fourth one, yeah. So you create a culture. Let's try to repeat that one. It goes very fast, and I don't think I have it in a slide, but it's very interesting. This is about the women, because it was after. let's see if it is this.
Intelligence, who's more comfortable with care and love and relationships and communication in the workplace, because that's what creates the type of community that we need for organizations to be fully human. And as we transform our organizations, which is what our book is, of course, dedicated to doing, we will see the reputation of business completely turn around. We will go from a 19% approval rating to an 81% approval rating. And as that happens, we will let up on the massive loss of economic freedom that we're seeing because we don't trust businesses because corporations are a bunch of sociopaths. We've got to control with the government, and as a result, our prosperity declines. Fourth tenet of conscious capitalism, and I will be done up here for my talk, is we have to create cultures that liberate human beings to be creative, that are not managed by fear, that allow humans to self-actualize themselves and reach their highest potentials in life. So I've already talked about love. We have to create organizations that have trust, that have empowerment, that have authenticity, that have innovation and collaboration. These are some of the traits that in our research shows that the conscious businesses have an abundance.
So what are the 5? Let's see if I remember. Trust, empowerment, innovation, authenticity, and collaboration. What does each of them mean?
Just
What does it each mean? Trust is clear. But you don't have to have cameras. People know what they have to do, and they do it because they want to do it. Of course, there has to be some control, because otherwise the client, somebody may spoil the client. One person is enough to bring a company down. The second thing, empowerment. What does empowerment mean? How would your company empower you? Yeah, very good. So to give value, to increase in your value, you increase your value by teaching you new skills, allowing you to get new skills, by continuous training, and professional training. Then that will allow the third one, which was innovation. So if you are empowered and you are given the means, then you innovate. And innovation has to be well received. What if we do this in a different way? What if that is innovation? And then collaboration. It's not me, it's we. And that really, because even thinking, sometimes we need to stop and think on our own. But when we then go into a group, then you get many more ideas, the brainstorming tradition. And authenticity is that, okay, what we say is what we mean. There are no hidden meanings. So this is the way of putting the 4 principles of conscious capitalism. Then I have them expressed in writing, but we are not going to go into it. That is just for the slide that you get. And then the leadership has to change. We'll have as well topic on leadership, but in the past, it worked for money, not for purpose. Now the millennials want purpose. You want to say, what I am doing here? I'm contributing to the job, or I contributing to people or not. So my satisfaction, my development. So I don't just stay stick. I want always to improve. If I cannot improve in this company and I have an opportunity to go to another company that allows me to innovate, I go because I develop. I want to continue. My boss is not my boss. My boss has to be my coach. He or she is helping me to empower myself to develop new things. This is serious. Okay. And then my annual review is not a threatening thing, it's how can I improve? How can I innovate? How can I contribute more? My weaknesses, my strength, you're good at this, so we can potentiate that more than, okay, I cannot do this because I don't feel it, I don't need it, I don't have the skills. And then my job becomes an important part of my life because it's how I develop, it's how I contribute. So purpose is at the core, the purpose of the company and the purpose of the individuals that are in that company. So if the two purposes aligns, then that company is going to do well. So the conscious culture, and we have to do it. So if our purpose aligns with the company purposes, normally we are happy. And we are in the place that we can thrive. So we have seen already this, but it's just to summarize what are the agency theory ethical foundations. Well, they want to minimize risk and they want to give the people who risk more the highest benefit. They don't want your rights, but that is not as good. The shareholder moral principle are the common good. No, this is the stakeholder, sorry. So all persons are valuable. The common good, that is all the stakeholders have to benefit, win-win. Everybody has to benefit, otherwise, if one of the wheels of the car is not working well, the car is not going well. So everybody has to benefit. The common destiny of the earth goods, we are going to see that, and distributive justice and subsidiarity. Everybody can take the decisions that affect to him, and every group can take the decisions that affect to the group, so that everybody benefits. So where do we have the corporate purpose? Well, if you are going to change company, normally companies have vision, mission, values, and a slogan. Do you remember the vision of Strathmore? Oh. Do you remember the vision of your company? Vision. Okay. Your mission? Okay. Do you remember? For Strathmore or for your company?
Sorry, I can't hear you.
To provide quality education. Yes, sorry. I should have given the microphone to people. Good. That all maybe one. Okay. Values? Can't remember. Maybe they're posted outside. Anyway, I don't remember them all either.
Yes.
And your company?
Even that right.
So the mission, the vision and values are important to define a company. So imagine that now we are going to form two companies. Okay? And then you decide your vision, your mission, your values, and your slogan according to the conscious capitalism. So in a way that you discover. We are not going to do this one. Now, the slogan or mantra is very interesting. We don't have it in Strathmore. In the business school, they have it. And let's watch this one, and you will see the difference between mission, vision, and values, and a mantra.
The second thing I learned is to make mantra. Many of you have not yet been polluted by the desire to make a mission statement. The desire to make a mission statement comes because you have a graduate school business degree, or perhaps you work for McKinsey for a summer, or something like that has ruined you. And so many entrepreneurs take it as one of the fundamental things they have to do is figure out a mission statement. So what they do is they grab the core team. There's somebody from marketing, from sales, from engineering, from production, finance, HR, and they go off-site and they craft this mission statement. And everybody has to put their 2 cents in, because this mission statement has to be workable for employees, for shareholders, for customers, for the dolphins, for the porpoises, you know, and the ozone hole, all that. All that has to be in a mission statement. So what I recommend is that you don't do a mission statement as a startup, because a mission statement usually ends up crap. It's too long. It's impossible to remember. It cannot even focus the company, which is what it should do. Inevitably, you will end up with a mission statement along these lines. The mission of Wendy's is to deliver superior quality products and services for our customers and communities through leadership, innovation, and partnerships. How many of you thought that that was Wendy's mission statement when you bought a hamburger there? How many of you think you could go to Trixie or Biff working at Wendy's and ask them, what's the mission of Wendy's, and they can repeat that word for word? It's impossible. That is a $50,000 mission statement done by a consulting firm. I love Wendy's. Don't get me wrong. I love Wendy's. But the mission statement leaves a lot to be desired. By contrast, you should do a mantra. Do a mantra because it's only 3 or 4 words. It captures the essence of your organization. When you have 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees and you can hire a facilitator, or you can go off-site and you can use McKinsey, God bless you, write this mission statement. It'll make you feel better. You can put it up on in your annual report. You can post it in your cafeteria, whatever you want to do. But right now, as an entrepreneur, make a mantra. Here are some mantras. First thing is, I think Wendy's proper mantra is healthy fast food. 3 words, healthy fast food. Somewhat oxymoronic, I must admit, but healthy fast food is something very easy to remember. Another good mantra, FedEx. FedEx's mantra, in my mind, should be peace of mind. Because when you absolutely, positively want something, someplace, you think of FedEx. The FedEx employee is thinking peace of mind for our customer. A third mantra from Nike, authentic athletic performance. Just do it is the slogan. It's the slogan for the customer. Authentic athletic performance is the mantra for the employee. That's what a Nike employee stands for, authentic athletic performance. And one of the best mantras is from Mary Kay, enriching women's lives. This is a good mantra because it works for 2 groups. The customer of Mary Kay, who buys the Mary Kay products, and also the salesperson of Mary Kay. It enriches both people's lives. So these are examples of mantras. And I would suggest to you that you come up with a 3 or 4 word thing like that. For me, my personal mantra is empowering entrepreneurs. That's what I do. Okay? Now, if some of you still have the desire to create a mission statement because, I don't know why, because you've been ruined somehow. So if you have this great desire to do a mission statement, rather than taking your team off-site and going away for a day and using a consulting firm and crafting some 50-word thing and wasting a lot of time and money, I suggest to you that you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. All you have to do is go to the Dilbert Mission Statement Generator website. And there, for absolutely no cost, you can get a mission statement like the one you want. Like, we exist to professionally build long-term, high-impact sources so that we may endeavor to synergistically leverage existing effective deliverables to stay competitive in tomorrow's world. See, that's a mission statement. I mean, that's something you can be proud of putting in your annual report. Don't pay $50,000 for this. Just go to the Dilbert Mission Statement Generator website. Okay?
Very good. So now, as we say, we have 10 minutes in groups. 1 group, you're a company, electrical company. You can be whatever type of electrical company you want. And then you have to come with a mission, values, and a mantra that there are various jobs. And now we have to finish this topic, is the end of the topic. And then we go to the next topic, which is related to this one, but is more on the culture, the 4th topic of conscious management. Where are you? Here. And this is going to be more local. Let's see. Yeah. Very good. So a culture is something that is transmitted and that is imperative in the sense that everybody in the company has to have the same culture, so that anybody coming and recognizing they recognize the values that are lived and the mission and the vision. So whom is the first type of people that you find when you come to university? Whom do you find first? The guards. Do they have the values of the university? So they are trained. It's an external company, but they are trained. And the managers of the company were very happy of the training on culture that they were giving here. So Martin Seligman was one of the psychologists that started positive psychology. So before, psychology was a branch kind of taking all the ideas from psychiatry. Psychiatry is people who are mentally sick. And then this, in the middle of last century, 1950s, 1960s, then a group of psychologists said, no. We have to look for the people who are outstanding. And then they started the positive psychology, which is to make us flourish. It's not just to get out of sickness, it's the opposite, is to make us as best as we can. Then this is psychology. And then they started with the PERMA. The PERMA is positive emotions, engagement, positive relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. Well, anyway, that is not. So positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. Which one do you think is the most important of those? If you have to buy for one, which one would you like the best? Madam? Positive emotions? Yes. Engagement? Positive emotions. Very good. Now, you will see that the most important one is relationships. Why? If you have a positive emotion, you're engaged, you have meaning, you have accomplishment, but you are alone, yeah. It doesn't matter, really. You feel loneliness is terrible. And the studies done in Harvard for 75 years following many people, they discovered that happiness comes from the relationships, deep relationships. There is another that they speak about identity, purpose. Remember, purpose is always that relationships, teamwork in the companies, positive work environment, personalizing work, resilience, growth, delightability. So there are different ways, and all of them are very positive, and it is good. So let's analyze your company culture at the moment. So this is the inverse. 1 is the best, 8 is the worst. So give you numbers to your company. Write them, because it's difficult to remember. And inventing an open mind place where people spark new ideas and explore alternatives. In Strasbourg, I will give you 2. Warm, collaborative, and welcoming place where people help and support one another. It feels like a big family. Yeah, 2. Compassionate and tolerant place where people try to do good for the long-term future of the world. Yeah. Playful, light-hearted environment where people tend to do what makes them happy. It feels like a party of celebration. Well, that an outcome-oriented and merit-based place where people are driven to achieve top performance. Yeah, more or less. Competitive place where people strive to gain personal advantage. No. Predictable place where people tend to play it safe and think things through carefully. Yeah, unfortunately. An orderly place where people tend to play by the rules and have desire to fit in. Yeah, more or less. So now, culture is based on values. So what value is the most important in this company? If it is money, that is a money-making culture. So you are valued as producer of money. That's it. It's pervasive. So the values affect everything that we do. So if we value honesty, we are going to be honest with everybody. If we are dishonest, we are going to be dishonest with everybody. It's implicit. Implicit means that it's not seen, but it's shared. Everybody in the culture does it. It's enduring. It's not a day, it's not a year, it's the institution itself. And is transmitted. Otherwise, the culture disappears. So all these things are important for a culture. And the most important is that values shared and enduring, I think is the most better definition of a good culture. Good values shared and enduring. No matter the circumstances, the values remain, and in all the people, or in most of the people. So how do you design this type of culture that is ethical, that is sustainable? Now, an example of real life from a company in the United States of America. So Charles King, clearly he doesn't look like a Native American, seems to come from Korea or one of those places. So he, let me tell his story, because in the clip, I don't think I have the full clip there. He is a computer engineer, they call them engineers, but basically he's a software engineer. And then he started the company, I think with his wife. And then the crisis came and the company almost went down. And then he started again, and he started getting the best programmers in America for his company. How did he do that? He went to the best universities where they have IT, and then he started giving internship and money for research to the best lecturers. So the best lecturers will give him the best students. The best students will go to the company in internship, and then he will get 400, 500 applicants, and he will take 10 for the internship. So he got the best. But then the second problem is that when he had spent years following these people from year 1 to year 4 or year 5, then they will come to his company, and after 3 months or 6 months, Google will come and offer them 2, 3 times the salary. So he says, I'm doing the job for Microsoft, for Google, for Amazon, getting the best people, well-trained, and then they go. So with money, I cannot beat Google, I cannot beat Microsoft, I cannot beat Amazon, cannot beat Facebook. So I think I have to change the culture. So I have to create a culture that people, even offered double the salary, will not go there. They will be so comfortable here that they will not change. So that is what he does. So let's listen to him, because he managed. But let's see how he created his culture.
Culture is and what culture is not.
Oh boy.
Culture is and what culture is not. Culture is not about free food. It's not about having the fanciest office, colored paint and walls. It's not about your happy hours and social activities. It is not about a perks arms race. It's the new income now for most people being hired. You know, here's your salary and your bonus. Well, what are the perks? That's the new income. And oftentimes culture is mistaken to build companies with a form of hedonism. It's like a party that's going on. More food, more drinks, more fun social activities, that's great culture. And it is not. It does not lead to anything except being happy in the short term. What we have found, and a lot of research backs this up, is that culture, when built correctly, leads to an outcome of true wealth. Long-term sustained happiness by individuals. And the process, which is what we need to all get focused more on. Not the outcomes, but what are the levers? What is the process that you want to invest in that leads to great outcomes? And there are two things that we found. It's a common thread across almost every research, every data point out there. Human beings need two things above all else. One is this need to continually grow. You grow and grow until you cannot grow anymore. It's never-ending growth. And the second, though, is for a higher purpose. For a purpose of servicing other human beings, for helping other human beings. The sobering thought that you have to think is, when you get to the end of your life, what do you want on your tombstone? Because it's never about how strong you are, how much money you have, how many houses you have, what powerful positions you had. It's always around the impact you had on other people. And that is the way we are wired. So in our company, we took those two things, and we built a very simple phrase. Better me plus better you equals better us, and us being a better world. Every culture initiative built in the company, 50% of our resources and capital and everything goes towards better me programs, 50% towards better you programs. And within that, I'm here to talk more about the health aspects, the fitness aspects. So the oxygen mask theory, why you must take care of yourself before you can take care of others, why you must be selfish before you become selfless. You can go further once you learn how to take care of yourself. So over the years, we spent a lot of time, and typically culture is run out of HR, human resources. And we came up with a different term. We called it human capital engineering. The reason we added the word engineering, in the world of engineering, there's a very simple mantra. You launch quickly, then you iterate like hell. In human resources, it's a little bit different. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, or don't change it, and let's check with legal and compliance. Things move very, very slowly. So we added this term, human capital engineering, and we call it HCE, and we started studying and looking at other frameworks that are out there. And Maslow's hierarchy, of course, comes to mind. Now, Maslow built this framework in 1943. Now, there is a big difference, though, between 1943 and today. And one of the single biggest differences is what we do for work. In 1943, we were very active. The idea of like overeating, idea of like over-nutrition, not moving, sitting sedentary at a desk for 10 hours, that's not work. Well, today, how you are physically set is actually really important. Most of us sit at a desk 8 to 10 hours a day, not moving. And that is not how we were built to do. We're not wired this way. So we came up with a very simple framework where security was at the bottom. And why security is important is when you don't feel safe, you don't push yourself. You don't experiment. Then health, because the physical vessel matters. The growth is the continuous growth of your individual self, all driving towards a higher purpose of helping and servicing other human beings. So we call that better me at the bottom to better me or better you at the top. To give you a little more context, in the field of professional sports, a lot of sports athletes, especially when they're in pro sports, they will have the income and security, they will have their health because that's their job function, and they will have growth because they're constantly improving. But those athletes who lack purpose will always lose their way. When you look at for-profit companies, you've got the notion that in order to get paid so I can take care of my family, what do you have to give up? You must give up your health. Growing is basically on your own, and if you want to do something to help other people, do it on the weekend, do it in your own time. Versus you look at nonprofits, they have the opposite. They spend their entire lives working to service and help other people, make the world better, but they have no security. They can't even feed their families. They have no health, and they definitely do not grow. And so this is the problem that we have to fix. So I'm going to talk about coming back to fitness, coming back to nutrition, but at two levels. Level one being more the how do we get a room, a company of 200 people, of which 75% are engineers. Most of them never step foot in a gym. And their nutrition literally consisted, over here is a lot of water drinking, there was a lot of Mountain Dew and Red Bull drinking. And that's what they did. And so the odds of actually getting them to go to the gym consistently, eating healthy, change their entire way of looking and thinking about fitness and nutrition, the odds are so odd against us. I would argue that if we could do it, anybody can do this.
So, how would you do it? I am one of those. I spend the whole day in front of the computer. I hate sports. They're useless for me. Huh? I don't gain anything out of them. And I love soft drinks, junk food. So how can you get me a bit healthy? Discuss. 5 minutes, 10 minutes? No, let's put 7 minutes and
Culture is and what
group.
Culture is not.
No, shut up. Let's go for the group work, 7 minutes. How you make people like me eat green and do exercise regularly. So let's go to the 7 minutes and let's see your ideas. Because you will have this problem. If you are not managers now, you're going to be managers. Okay, let's go. People at home are still, Paul is the first one, Cyprian is the second one, and Jerison has trouble. He's not there, it seems. I know, he's there, but takes time.
Good evening again.
Okay.
We were still discussing because the time ran out very, very fast. But we thought that there's nothing that can be able to make a conscious, cannot make someone make a conscious decision to do something or change the way they do things if they don't have sufficient information. So
Okay.
the starting point, I think being honest with a lot of love about the dangers of not eating healthily and not exercising in a general form should be able to create an awakening conscience to the people involved so that they can ditch their bad lifestyles and start trying to eat well and exercise. Number two, we thought that if the organization has different functions or different departments, some that require maybe exertion of some physical activities and some that don't, then we have something called cross-function or probably some occasional swapping of roles where employees can be encouraged to know what goes on in other departments. And if that, if such people can be assigned to departments that require a bit of exercising and physical exertion, then I think that can also be able to work and can be able to bring them to practice. Then thirdly, we thought that if the problem is rampant in a big organization, then the management, in line with the, with what we are talking about, can create probably programs, let's say awareness programs or CSR programs that can start with the internal clients, like the employees themselves, and give those particular employees or people roles that are related towards either sharing information that is related towards health and physical fitness and eating well, and give them leading roles. And it will be very impossible for them to communicate a message of that nature if they're not trying or participating in doing that. So we were at that stage. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. That's very general. So that doesn't convince me. I know what is good food. I know what is good exercise. I know the fallbacks of exercise. But like a friend of mine, he knows all the bad things about tobacco, but he has smoked one pack and a half still. So yeah, information is important. But we need a bit more. Let's see this group. What do you propose?
So for our group, we went with we have 6 points for how, as a manager, how you will get people healthy. So the first point is to introduce fitness facilities at workplace, for example, gyms, and having companies to cater for this facility so that it can promote people to start working. And then another point is to introduce fitness activities, other fitness activities like the fun activities like Zumba, monthly hikes for people to join in. Another one is to sensitization on healthy lifestyles, and also participation in sports activities like for her company, Soras, you do the marathons and other activities. And then also providing healthy diet options for staff. Yeah.
Very good. I have a tip where I live. The university is organizing hikes and excursions. They have healthy food, but still that doesn't move me. So let's see. Yes.
Force people to comply. For instance,
I go to another company. If you force me, I go to another company. Yeah. Well, I still work at home. Or I go to another company. So let's see what he did with very difficult people like me. Not that I will do everything he suggests, but okay, better me, we saw this one, we saw this one, we saw this one, we saw this one. We saw this one, so probably we'll have to go to the next one. Yeah. So level 1 is health, level 2 is growth. So let's go to the level 1. So safety at the bottom. He makes sure that he was creating new things. And then in 2012, they elaborated the no fighting policy. So you know that you are there for life. Unless you get crazy and do crazy things, you are there for life, like in the Japanese.
Emotional development program. So that's the most cutting edge things that we're working on right now. So going into what we did, exercise, the notion of healthier employees perform better. Very simple notion. And so we built gyms in all our offices and everyone competes, and I'll go into more details of how we got to where we are. Nutrition. We were very strategic with nutrition. Every nutritionist we talked to always asked one common question. Did you eat breakfast? Did you eat breakfast? Did you eat breakfast? So being an engineer, we saw the pattern. We said, it must be the most important thing in nutrition. We must get every employee to eat breakfast. So what do? We made every meal for breakfast free and no other meal free. And breakfast, by the way, is the cheapest meal to service as a company. We made that the only free meal, and free food, this bizarre thing I see in conferences. You look at it, employees, free food just gets gobbled up. And in fact, we had to lock the fridges by 11 o'clock saying, you know what, you're starting to border on lunch. We don't lock it anymore. But to get employees to eat breakfast, we literally had to say breakfast is breakfast and then there's lunch. And that's what we started with. And for years, we just focused only on breakfast. And what we found was that it became a ritual. Every employee ate breakfast every single day at the company. Then we added healthy free lunches. But the only way you get a healthy free lunch is if you go to the gym and work out in a class that we offer at lunch. Yoga classes, boxing classes. You take a class, you get a free healthy lunch. Otherwise, you pay for your own lunch. And then eventually we added dinner. Healthy dinners, but this is around community. Eating together was the aspect of it. So every meal was strategically treated of how it could be engineered into the environment. So
So that will buy me 3 meals. Oh boy. A bit of yoga. Okay. I will do it. And diversity. So you have Rumba, you have many different things. So some people like one, some people like another. But the important thing is, if I do it for 1 hour, I get a free lunch. Yeah, I go.
But sir, will you be running an organization, a business? Will you be running a social joint? These things are implemented this way. Because
and they are doing very well.
Look at the context. How many businesses can be able to do this very well and to the level where they're offering such kind of services to a community of employees in this nature?
Well,
because
Safaricom is doing something of that sort.
And what drove everything, though, was physical fitness. How do you get someone who never stepped foot in the gym to go to the gym on a regular basis? Now, the question of regular comes up. What does regular mean? Most fitness experts said, Charlie, you got to get people to work out 5 days a week. Minimum. Maybe 4, that's the bare minimum. And if you don't hit 4, it's not even worth having a program. And we said, these people never stepped in the gym. Every single person would fail before we even begin. We're going to set a much lower bar, but we think it's realistic. Twice a week, consistently, we want people to go to the gym. Twice a week. Now, fitness experts said, no point in having the program. That's not going to work. But we said, this is what we're going to do. And we found over time this pattern. I don't know if you know this, but the human red blood cell dies and regenerates every 90 days. If you can find the right habits, the right rituals, the right things built into your environment or your culture, and it lasts for 90 days, that happens weekly and twice a week, you will find that people change. You become a different person in a course of 90 days. So when we started building our gym programs going way back, we built gyms, invested a ton in every office, and at best we were able to get 5% of the employees going to work out regularly. Well, we ran a lot of experiments. Like I said, we iterated like hell. Everything we launched, we iterated. The fact that it might fail was less relevant. It was a question of what are we going to iterate to make it work. And we pushed and pushed and pushed. And for the last almost 4 years now, we've been averaging 90% of our employees regularly work out. And the average workout in a week for a person is 3.5 times in a week. Huge success. So we'll take you through some of the key lessons that we learned. One of the first lessons was that providing access, convenient access, was important. And you'll see this common thread, most important to the top performers of the company. We first offered free gym memberships. Every employee got free gym memberships. And the most perverse thing happened. Every top performing employee never went. But every bottom performer always went. In fact, I had many arguments with an employee saying, I need you in this meeting, and they'd say, Charlie, I can't go. I got to go to the gym. There's a class I signed up for. I have to go. And I tell them, but I really need you in this meeting. It's for the company. And they would say, but you promote health. You want us to work out. I signed up for the class. I have to go. And this happened enough times. Like I was literally pulling my hair, could not believe this was happening. So we went, and we found that once we built gyms in the office, it wasn't that the low performers didn't work out. They kept working out, worked out even more. But the top performers started to go because it was easy for them. The notion of re-engineering the environment, turning it around so that it's easier to do the right thing than the wrong thing. But many of you here may say, well, I don't have the budget to build a gym. I cannot convince my senior leadership to build a gym. I can't afford that kind of capital investment. Well, it's not how we started. We started with literally $200, and that's how we built our gym. We took our largest conference room, and we said, starting at 6 p.m., the conference room is closed. You can't be using it for meetings. It's going to turn into a gym. We went to the gym, found personal trainers, and we negotiated a discounted rate, and the employees are just pitching in at a lowered rate now, and we use the conference room literally as a gym. And we spent $200 buying weights and rubber bands and what the trainers needed, and we would literally do lunges around the conference table, we would do sprints around the table, and that is how we built our gym for years. And employees worked out. And it was convenient. It was right there. It was great for the personal trainers. They got paid more than they made at the gym because the gym usually takes a huge cut. Everyone got a benefit for $200. So for those of you who think you can't convince your senior management, you can't afford yourself to put the investment in to build a gym, I know you have $200. Looking at other things that we learned, lessons we learned. In a lot of these things we learned how things failed before we learned how things worked. Notion of creating competitions. Oftentimes incentives, throwing gift cards, throwing money, throwing points. A lot of people throw money at the problem. And we found that in the short run you might get success, but very quickly it tapers off and never comes back. It did not work. But the sense of competition, what's innate in all of us, and especially most people, no matter how old and young and experienced, we like to compete. And especially when you hire the right people who are driven, who want to win, competition is very easy to trigger. So competition was important, but there was something key in competition, which is a scoreboard. If you don't know the score, it's very difficult to compete. Do you ever go to a bowling alley and try to keep bowling with your eyes closed? You wouldn't know how to make your game better. You wouldn't know how to compete. You need a scoreboard. So one of our engineers one day, over the weekend, literally built a fitness portal where everyone in the company is broken into 5 teams, and you can see which team is winning on a regular basis. Meaning, did the team member go to the gym regularly? Meaning, did they work out twice minimum in the week? And so if you haven't worked out at all, it has an X. If you worked out once, it has a yellow check. And if you worked out twice or more, you get a green check. And you can see by individual who's gone and who hasn't gone. Now, one of the greatest benefits that we saw, side benefit, was what team members did to help each other win. The people who went to the gym the most, the top performers of the gym, actually started identifying the lowest performers on their team. People who were so scared to go to the gym, unfamiliar with the gym, and they would go and mentor them and help them, show them how to use the batting cage, the rock climbing wall, show them how to play ping pong. They would find a way to teach them how to use the gym. We built trainers without even meaning to build trainers in our own employees. So competition did some very interesting things for us. But as competition continues, and you may find this if you ever run a competition, things fatigue. You get complacency. It gets to a point where you hit a ceiling. And the ceiling we hit was 50% of the employees going to the gym regularly was the highest we could get. And everyone believed that was a ceiling, that it was unrealistic to expect anything more. Well, recognition programs, when done correctly and celebrated in front of the company, can have very impactful influences in the company. So we have a program called the President's Award. It's for breaking new records. In the President's Award, we give 2 metal steel balls, so balls of steel, to the captain or the individual who breaks ceilings in the company, and $10,000 in the next paycheck. Pretty big award. So one team lead, his name is John Nellen. He decided, my birthday's in July actually, it was just last week. So he decided 1 week, on the week that my birthday was on, that as a gift to me, he was going to get his team to work out 100%. And so he went, and he just did it. I didn't think it was possible. He did it, and 100% of the team worked out on his team alone. In the company staff meeting, he's in Boston, I'm in New York, we zoom the camera in, his face turns blushing red as we hand him 2 metal steel balls and $10,000. Everyone in the company saw this. So this is what happened the very next week. So once the ceiling was broken, this is Tuesday. This is Wednesday. This is Thursday. And by Friday, every single person in the company worked out twice a week, minimum. And suddenly, the new norm became 100%. And in fact, we had perverse things occur. In fact, 100% was almost seemingly too easy to hit. People started competing on how many workouts. It got a little out of control. 2 was a good goal. We kept that at 2, even though we averaged higher. Once the numbers started getting higher and higher, the pressure was literally too much that it started to have a negative effect on work. But 100% now is the new norm. Using data, and using data in interesting ways. When it comes to teammanship and competition, so I'm a big fan. I spent a lot of time in Boston, so Red Sox is the example I use. And the Red Sox are winning, I think, in this example, 11-1. So the losing team has no incentive to compete. Okay, so you're not big Red Sox fans? But
Even the talk in California and the
this is totally by accident. I don't know if COL stands for Colorado. That was totally by accident. So what ends up happening is when the losing team continues to lose, people eventually say we can't win. So why compete? Why try? So we have a lot of data. Every single person going to the gym checked in every single week. So one of the engineers over a weekend literally just coded and said, I'm going to build an algorithm, call it FitRank. Who is going to the gym the most and ranking them on a 5-star basis relative to everybody else. And everyone got a ranking. And suddenly we had a system to score every team, and we can see one team was incredibly strong in FitRank while the other teams weren't. And so when we had to do a reshuffling of the teams, we could even the FitRank across all teams. So every team had a chance to win. And once again, competition picked back up. This is the last insight I have in the fitness front. The notion of investing more for your top people. No matter what we did, we found top people still prioritize working, driving revenue in the company above going to the gym. And they're the ones that missed. And yet every program we built, we talk about trying to get our best even better. They're the ones that we invest for. The reason we put all this investment in. We want them healthier because we know they'll perform better. And so what ended up working was personal trainers. And not just anyone, we found the best of the best. People who trained, A-Rod from the Yankees. People who, Hungarian national ping pong champion. To individuals who coach professional MMA fighters for boxing lessons. We have 20 personal trainers now as consultants on staff. And they're offered, they teach classes at noon, but in the evenings they're only offered to the top performers of the company, as voted by the employees. Free training sessions in the peak and prime time to work out. It's an appointment on your calendar. An appointment on your calendar for top performers, they go. And they don't want to waste it, so they end up going. And so the graph at the bottom is an individual, I'll tell you more about Lokia shortly, was not going to the gym. And suddenly with trainers, she's going. The comments we get back, are these comments of, oh my God, the opportunity to learn from a world champion in ping pong. That's amazing. I'm going to go. So we invest more always for the top people. So testimonials, the kind of feedback we heard. People said, I used to get sick frequently. After starting to exercise regularly, I notice I hardly ever get sick. The quality of my sleep is much better. I find that I fall asleep quickly, sleep well, and wake up refreshed. I used to work 9-to-5 job and be exhausted by the afternoon. And next jump, even in a 10-hour day, I feel energized and focused throughout the day. I found working out in a gym provides community, collaboration with colleagues you normally wouldn't interact with. No matter who I spoke to about Next Jump, they could not believe how ahead of the curve we are. They all mentioned that we are running a program akin to a sports team. And this is the best one I love. The fitness center, nutritionist, classes, and competition form a comprehensive, impressive program. We know the program is working out. My son is twice the man he used to be. I have hundreds of letters from mothers of our employees. When your mother calls you, she asks you, are you sleeping? Are you eating well? Are you being healthy? The mothers of our employees love me more than any other human being out there. I have more notes that sound like that, where they talk about how their son, their daughter, is a different person. They're different when they come home. They're different when they interact. They're different when they talk on the phone. They are different people, better people.
So what are the things that make practically everybody go to the gym twice? Take into account two things. One, this is an engineer's company of programmers. So they are sitting on the desk the whole day. And the motto is healthy people produce more. Happy cows produce more milk. So that is part of his culture, to have healthy people who are happy because they are healthy. They eat well, they do sports, they sleep well, they can work 10 hours without feeling it. So great. So how did he manage? What are the secrets? Competition is number one. But I'm not a competitive man. So you run faster. Good for you. I don't want to beat you. I don't want to beat people in anything. So competition is one. And it motivates. It motivates. Competition against myself will motivate me, or helping other people. Now, the second thing, teamwork. So I remember I had a friend and we used to walk every week once. Now he stopped, I stopped. Going alone is not fun at all. If I go with a team, yes. If I go with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, it's fun. But alone, yuck, it's no good. Third thing that he did. Yeah, that the competition and to show that you can make it and to balance the team so there is always competition. But there is one thing that is missing, which is very important. Incentivize with food. And another thing, prize money, okay. And sometimes it's a treat more than money. But anyway, incentives work for the winning team and to keep the competition going. One more thing.
I think one more thing also is providing a conducive environment.
Conducive environment in the office, near the office, you have to have showers and you have to have some gyms, very good. The coaches, the coaches, very important. Because then I know how to improve and I keep on the improvement. So it is possible. Now you were commenting that of course in a small company, and if everybody is doing physical exercise, you don't need the gyms. In a farm, you don't need the gym. You need television, or you need entertainment, or you need some other thing, because physically they are already developed. So as you have said before, all in the departments, these different departments may need different things. And in his case, 75% of the people were engineers, the other are administrators. So there is hardly any physical job. Very good. So now he goes to the other very important thing
I talked about
of culture, which is the personal development. So better me, I'm physically very well. But now mentally how I am. The better me, better you. What is better you? I have to help people. I have to be a good person. And I'm a good person when I help other people. At home, in the community. So let's see what he do to convince people that probably never have done it to get out and do something for other people.
So I talked about level 1, and that to me is the basics, the foundation. Just work out, just eat healthy. We're going to talk about 5 areas that we're now experimenting, of integrating this whole notion. Someone mentioned this earlier, the idea of your whole self. Most of us live very divided lives. We're a different person at home than we are at work. We're a different person sometimes in the gym than we are somewhere else. We live divided lives, and when you live a divided life, it's like trying to train like 6 different people at the same time. When you live a whole self life, you train anywhere, whether it's in the gym, whether it's at home, whether it's on culture, whether it's on revenue, it impacts everything else. There's an individual by the name of Jim Lear. I'm assuming being in health, many of you may have heard of him. Written 18 bestseller books, runs an amazing institute called the Human Performance Institute. He spent some time in Spain with bullfighters, with matadors. And the time he spent with them, he asked them, how are you able to stand in front of a charging bull where they can smell your fear and be so confident? And they talked about how they train. And they train in what they call the matador walk. Your chest is out and you're walking with extreme confidence and you practice. And when you train physically on the outside, it changes you on the inside. And that is something we have seen. Whether you're training outside in or inside out, you are the same person. So I'll talk about 5 different experiments we're running. One of them is around balance, physical balance, the right and left side of your body, all the way to character balances. The notion of who you are showing up with common patterns and themes everywhere we look at. The notion of investing in loss, playing out of your comfort zone, whether it's in physical fitness or whether it is in your career development. The notion of how to use recovery best, as well as the notion of intensity versus consistency. So in physical balance, and balance is the foundation of everything you need in physical activity. Besides few sports like pole vaulting, where you need to be stronger on one side, most sports require agility. You need to be able to equally go left or right at the same speed with the same impact. In tennis, most of us are great at the forehand, but we all suck at the backhand. And you ever see someone who sucks at the backhand? They overdo it and hit backhands and forehands, and anybody who's decent at tennis can beat them just by lobbing the ball out of their reach. You need to be agile on both. And oftentimes, the whole world's been filled with strength finders and focused on strength, yet when you don't have balance, injury occurs. So in physical fitness, there's an individual we got to know very well by the name of Peter Gorman. Peter Gorman invented the heart rate monitor, Polar Tech. Amazing individual, and his new company now is building a product called the Octogate. And it's an Olympic, training facilities, professional sports. So we put him, of course, into our office as well. And this equipment is pretty cool equipment. It's laser driven, and it measures in real time your physical imbalance by percentage left and right. And most of us are imbalanced over time. And so the question of being imbalanced is not the issue. Ultimately, are you trending better or are you trending worse? And what they have found is this: when your imbalance from one side to the next gets to 15%, you're prone for injury. You're going to get hurt. And so you want to start trending the right way, and we have ways to actually correct and work on this imbalance. But you first have to help someone get self-aware of it, and then start to measure over time if they're getting better or worse. And so this is something we're doing in conjunction with another type of training, the notion of character balances. So character balances in this example, all of us have some level of confidence and some level of humility, but it tends to be imbalanced. And if you are incredibly confident, say a confidence level 8, but your humility is at level 2, that by definition is called arrogance. Yet some of us will say, you know what, I'm a really good person, I'm really humble. Well, you're so humble that you're humble number 9, but your confidence at a 2, it's what they call insecurity. And what we have found is at the point of stress, when it matters most, an arrogant person will make an arrogant call. An insecure person will make an insecure call. And it's consistently the wrong call. We tend to go, and no different than, when you play tennis, your forehand is strong, you're going to hit the backhand with the forehand, the same thing occurs on the emotional front. We tend to skew towards our strength to the point where we make the wrong calls, not realizing there are 2 ways to go. And when you don't have this foundation of balance, every other form of training doesn't
work. So humility and confidence, we are going to see that in more detail.
So,
okay. One of the things that he's going to speak is this one, but let's leave it for
you're building.
We have seen nutrition is important, but he's going to speak about the consistency later. What I'm interested in this, because in the next videos, he's going to speak about this. And graphically, it's very easy for graphic people, I'm a graphic people, to remember what it means and to apply it to my life. But then you will have to discover in the next talk, which we're going to do next week, because I think it's about time, and I wanted to, it's 2 minutes to go. I wanted to tell you something else. So next week we are going to work on this, which is interesting for not only the physical development, but above all, the character development, which is ethics. So this is a way of expressing how to become a bit better in the culture. So everybody in the company knows these things, and then it works well. So this is number 21. Okay. So for next week, I have to put it across, otherwise I will forget, no memory. So I wanted to show you 2 things. One is the marks, the score, how it is going. If you want to make teams, it can be made teams, but so remember, the cut is going to be your average mark up to topic 6 here. And then cut 2 will be 7 to 13. So this is good because it's easy to get good marks here. How do you get good marks here? Well, so number 1 is doing it in time. Those who don't do it in time, then we'll have to catch up. We're going to give a bit of time to catch up. and it's per week. It's not per topic. It's per week. Sorry, I confused the thing. Then, and this is what gives you good marks. The real life description is what happened to you. The more detail, the better. And authenticity is must to get defined. Unfortunately, I'm too lenient and everybody is extraordinary. So most people are extraordinary. Now, relationship with the unit is, so everything below that is related to the real life description. So I got a car accident and then I got very annoyed, I started shouting, the police came, I punched a policeman, I went to jail. So that is the unexaggerated, not real life, for me, description, fortunately. But then the relationship of the unit is, okay, we talk about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence has these 4 items, self-knowledge, self-control, empathy, and relationship management. I really plan to endorse 2, etc. So the relationship of the unit is explaining the topic related to my real life description, and also giving it an ethical aspect because we are an ethical subject. Cross-checking research. The temptation is go to ChatGPT or Wikipedia or any article and copy and paste. That doesn't work. I'm going to be a bit more strict there. What works is this article really is explaining why I get annoyed. I got annoyed. So it has to be related to the real life description. And this other article I think is wrong because that is not what happened to me. And this fellow may be a scholar but has not a clue of having a car accident. And then the reflection is putting everything together. So if I have a car crash next time, I will first cool down, breathe deeply, do a bit of yoga, smile when the police comes, and is to apply what I have learned in these 2 sections to the last one. Questions? Yes.